Well, hello. I'm not pregnant anymore, which means I am so relieved. And I am alive and I am starting to get healthy again and I'm recovering. Praise Yah. Oh, it feels so good to be on the other side of just the pregnancy that I endured and just the long labor and the birth, and I just feel so good and so grateful to be alive and to be standing here talking to you, sitting here talking to you today. Yeah, feels good. And here's a little baby. Yeah.
Want to tell them about it?
Yeah.
It was a wild ride, y'all.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. First of all, we sold our RV. We're out of the lifestyle. We gutted it, cleansed it of mold, but then we just sold it for scrap, basically. I had to be done with that and be able to focus on her getting better and us just getting ready for the baby to be born.
Yes.
And I'm so thankful I did that now. So it's like a ransom from the house of bondage.
Yes.
We really were living in a house of bondage and didn't even know it. And we couldn't have done that without all the people who have come alongside us and helped us and supported us more than ever in our lives.
Yes.
But it enabled her to be able to get to a clean place.
Yes, a mold-free place, and have peace to be able to, bring the baby forth. I don't know where to begin. If I should just tell you guys about the birth, or if I should tell you kind of what led up to the birth, or up to the pregnancy even, because this story kind of goes way back. But it goes back to a little bit before Passover last year. And last year, we were getting ready to leave Texas, the farm that we were working on. And as we were traveling out of there, we stopped and stayed with some dear friends of ours that we had made while we were down in Texas. People keeping Yah's commandments and who love him and love truth and just were wonderful people. So we went and stayed on their property with them. I think actually Nathan was going out of town at the time, and they didn't want me to be alone in an RV park somewhere with the girls, so they said, why don't you come and park on the property that we stay on, and you can just park right next to us. They have lived full-time in a camper for I think 6 years or something like that, and so they were fellow travelers, and I think that's why we connected with them so powerfully too. Over the course of that week while Nathan was gone, I got to really get to know Kelly really well, and she's such a wonderful woman, and she's so passionate about childbirth and about natural childbirth. She's actually given birth to 5 babies, which were unassisted, meaning that not that she was without assistance. She had her husband and she had the Most High, Yahuah. So she had given birth to all her babies in her camper. And she was like, yep, that one was born there, that one was born there, that one was born there. And I just got to get to know her over that week, and she shared with me her different birth stories, and she had made a big natural birthing video, like for people who are interested in trying to do unassisted birth or just natural birth, and she's just really passionate about it. So she asked me if she could show me the video and the presentation and kind of walk me through it, and I said, oh, I'd love to hear it. And so she did, and we just talked a lot about birth, and I kind of shared my previous 2 natural births. I had both of my daughters Jubilee and Naomi at birth centers. So I did have natural childbirth, no medications or anything like that, no pain management or anything like that, just natural childbirth with midwives at a birth center. So I did 2 different birth centers for both of my girls when they were born, but I had never done a home birth or anything like that. I just found it fascinating talking to Kelly and just kind of marveled at her faith and just how much peace and how much faith she had. She was full of faith, and just the way she talked about birth being like such a natural process, and that Yah is with you and your body knows what to do, and you just get in this zone and you're able to just birth freely the way that you have always desired to birth. Or just hearing all about this style of birthing that is free of control and free of just influence from outside sources, outside medical sources. Does that make sense? And she just was so free to birth the way that her body births best, and just following those instincts that her body, that Yah has created in our body as women. He has fearfully and wonderfully made our bodies to give birth, and it's such a beautiful thing. And to be able to do that naturally. About the 3rd night after we had stayed there with them, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was probably like 3 a.m. and I woke up and, you know, couldn't get back to sleep. And so I just decided I was just gonna lay there and pray and just kind of thank Yah and hopefully fall back asleep. And so I closed my eyes and I just started rejoicing and just thanking the Most High for bringing us this property and for these people. And all of a sudden, it was like he turned on a movie, like as I had my eyes closed, like a little vision or something. And he panned, it was crazy. He like took me back in a moment to a memory. And it was, I was back in the birthing, or not the birthing suite, but it was the exam room. I was back in the exam room that they took me in a lot of times at the birth center when I would do my prenatal checkups with the midwife. And I was back in one of the exam rooms, and all of a sudden it was like a camera like that was panning around the room. And as this camera is panning around the room, I noticed the windowsill, and I remember this exam room very specifically because around the entire windowsill of the exam room of this birthing center was pretty much every female
fertility goddess.
Fertility goddess that there is.
Idols.
All around the windowsill, okay? This birthing center was in Boulder, Colorado, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with Boulder, Colorado, but it's a total spiritual melting pot place. There are like idols on like every street corner in this town, okay? And I'm a native Colorado person, grew up my whole life there. We frequently went to Boulder growing up my whole life. It was like, oh yeah, Boulder's the crazy religious like melting pot area, and there's idols and there's all kinds of just weird stuff up there, but you just kind of got used to it and you're like, oh yeah, it's just Boulder. And anyway, when we had gone back to Colorado with Jubilee, to have Jubilee, I wanted to be near my family and my friends, and we were staying parked up on a little hill in the mountains, and that was where our organic farming journey began.
Farming with the Reynolds
series. And we were staying up there, and anyway, I remember during that time I couldn't go back to the birth center where I had Naomi, which I didn't even have a great experience with Naomi's birth, because at the birth center, you know, they have 3 rooms, and they say, oh yeah, you know, we have one midwife that's on call, and she'll have like an assistant, like a student nurse that's working with her or something. But they'll, you know, the odds of 3 moms being birthing at the same time is very, very slim to none. We don't have that many moms, you know, right now, and you'll have your, it'll be 1-to-1, like your midwife, you'll have your own midwife, and you can pick any of the birthing rooms. Well, when I went into labor with Naomi, and finally, after 3 days and nights of labor with her at home, finally got to the point where they were consistent, they were regular, I was in active labor, and then we had to get in the car, and then we had to drive to the birthing center, which now, hindsight, I'm like, I can't even imagine doing that again. Like getting in the car during active labor, like, and driving somewhere to have your baby when you could have your baby at home in the comforts of your own home and sleep in your very own bed that night. Like, I don't know, I just can't imagine it. But got to the birth center, and right when we pull up and we walk in, I'm so excited. I'm like, let's do this. Like, I am ready to give birth to this baby. I am so sleep deprived. I've been in labor for 3 nights and I am ready to do this. And we showed up, and there was 2 other moms already in labor, already in rooms. I don't even know if I got the room that I wanted. I don't think I did. I had to be thrown in the 3rd room. The midwife comes in, she checks me, she's like, you're 7 centimeters dilated. She goes, swipe, swipe, breaks my water. My water wasn't even broken. And then my labor started super painful. Like, my contractions were even more intense. Like, before that, it was totally manageable, but she broke my water. And I even asked her, I said, you just broke my water? And she's like, oh yeah, oops.
And she was more of a student too.
And I was just like, I was so mad, because then it got so painful, and I started to feel this fear creeping in because of the pain level was so intense. And then she says, hon, you're doing great handling the contractions. You have your husband, you have your mom and your mother and father here. You have a great support system. And she said, I have 2 other moms who are doing a lot worse off than you, and I really need to go and tend to them. I'm here if you need me, but like, you're doing great. Like, basically just keep birthing on your own. That's what happened to me with Naomi. And so anyway, after that experience, I didn't really want to go back to that birth center. And they ended up closing down anyway. And all the other birth centers were going to be way too far. Like, I don't want to have to drive an hour when I'm in active labor. No way. That's crazy. And so the nearest birth center was about 20 minutes away. And it was this Boulder birth center. But anyway, like I said, back to the vision. So Yah's panning me around this room. There's idols on all the windowsill, okay? And all of a sudden, and I'm literally like in the middle of prayer to Yah, and he is showing me this. And I was like, why is this coming to mind? At the time, it had been like, how old was Jubilee? Two and a half, maybe? 2.5. I hadn't thought a second about that birthing room or that birth center pretty much since I gave birth there. Like, I haven't even had a thought of it. And I'm like, why is this popping in my mind right now and playing like a perfect, like, it was like perfect clarity, like video, like reflection of this room, and it's panning around, and my heart like sank in my chest, and I got this just nauseating feeling in my stomach. And I knew that the Most High was telling me that him and I had some beef, and that we were not okay. And he was trying to convict me of the idols. And I literally got this like word that like, you gave birth to Jubilee, your daughter, in a house of idols. And I just felt so sick, and I just got out of bed and started weeping and just laid flat on my face and was like, oh Yah, have mercy on me. I am so sorry. Like, I'm sure that enraged you. I'm sure that made you jealous. He says he's a jealous El. And I'm sure he was furious that we were even entertaining that or allowing that or like supporting this business that clearly they had no problem with their idol worship. And I remember even back when we were sitting in that exam room, we saw all the idols and we were like, whoa, that's a lot of idols. But I think I just brushed it off kind of in my mind because I needed this birth center. And
you didn't want to give birth in the RV.
And really the deep down issue was, yes, that I had some pride about not wanting to birth in my motorhome or my tiny home. And I was like, I don't want people to think I'm trailer trash, or like I'm giving birth to my baby in some hillside, like in my camper. Like, it was pride, you guys. It was pride. As I'm sitting there on my face, repenting to Yah and praying through all these things, you guys, oh my gosh, he just convicted me of sin after sin after sin, like ways in which I have wronged him, that I wronged him. And I was like, oh my gosh, Yah, have mercy on me. It was so brutal. But I just, prayed through it and repented, and was genuinely so grieved that I had not had more zealousness for like his word. You know, he says, have no other Elohim before my face. And it's not that we were bowing down and worshiping those idols. You know, I think in my rational mind, I was saying like, you know, oh, well, they don't have eyes. They can't see. They're literal like statues. Like this is not my Elohim with who I serve. And if other people want to serve these things, kind of whatever. Like, I was just kind of indifferent about it. And I think that attitude just came from obviously not having a fear and reverence of Yahuah, but just growing up in Boulder and literally learning to just accept and tolerate all these other Elohim that are in this city and represented in this city. And that whole week, I was so grieved. I just kept falling on my face. Like, the whole rest of the week, I just would feel so overwhelmed by like just guilt and conviction, and just would fall on my face. And then I read Deuteronomy 28 about the blessings and the curses, and I've read Deuteronomy 28 a lot, but I have never been so just like, it was like this fear of Yahuah, like, and this fear of him like came on me, and I was like trembling that like, if he doesn't extend his mercy, if he doesn't extend his, you know, his son's atoning blood, like to me, his forgiveness of my sins, like I will utterly perish. Like, it was just this like intensity. And I just kept falling on my face and just repenting and just begging him for mercy. And I also felt like the whole previous year, I had 2 miscarriages. I had COVID twice. I was so sick that whole year. It was one of the sickest years of my life. And I was so sick, and I kept wondering and like asking Yah, like, why did this happen to me? If this isn't the curses, like, you know, like, and I'm trying to follow you and be obedient to your commands, why do I feel like I'm being cursed? I don't know why. I just felt that. And when he showed me that room of idols, I just knew, like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is totally connected to my miscarriages. Like, this is like a huge transgression that like Yah and I have had in between our relationship, and we haven't dealt with it yet, you know? And so anyway, that's also where kind of I started covering my head during that time too, because I just felt like when I was praying one time during that week that I was repenting for this, I felt like he, you know, told me in my spirit that I needed to cover my head. I just felt this overwhelming burden to like cover my head. And I was like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Like, I need your mercy right now. Like, I am desperate for your mercy. And I think it was maybe the night before Nathan came home after his trip, I was just on my face again, weeping again, and just asking Yah if he forgave me, like just asking him if he had forgiven me for these sins, the sin of pride, the sin of usurping my husband's authority. Like, my husband, he has been telling me to do home births forever, you guys. He has been trying to encourage me to do home births with Naomi's birth, and I was so stubborn and I was so fearful, you guys. It comes from a deep root of fear of childbirth. And I was afraid, and I was afraid to birth at home, and it just was putting me out of my comfort zone. And instead of yielding to my husband's authority, submitting to him and really listening to him and prayerfully considering what he had to say, I was so quick to say, nope, I'm the one birthing this baby. I'm the one bringing this baby into the world. I'm gonna make the decision for what I feel comfortable with, And so I just felt like I had to repent of that sin too, of just, having this almost, just this terrible attitude and lack of submission to not only my husband, but to Yahuah, and being so afraid of childbirth, and then also too prideful to birth in my camper. So much so that it blinded my eyes, and I literally went to a house of idols to give birth to my second daughter, Jubilee. So that was really hard and just a brutal time of humbling that week. But I remember praying and crying on my face again and just asking Yah if he forgave me. And I felt like he gave me another vision as I was praying of Yeshua, the Good Shepherd. And he picked up this lamb, this wounded lamb, and he put it up on his shoulders. And he was walking, and I felt like that was me, and that he forgave me for that. And then after that time, I felt like he was calling me to be baptized again, to repent and be cleansed and washed clean of just all of this filth that had been in my life and in my heart. Even though we had begun walking in his ways and trying to keep his feasts and trying to be set apart to him, clearly I had some areas of my heart that were not towards him or towards his ways. And I didn't have that fear and that deep fear and that reverence of him yet. So anyway, I did after this, and I traveled up to the Passover in Missouri, and I got baptized, and just washed it all down the river, and I felt so free and alive, and I just was like, Father, I would love it if you would open my womb again. I would love it if you would give me children again. I would love it if you would bless the fruit of my womb as I try to walk out a better walk before you, better than I had, and more dedicated to him. And I wanted him to teach me the fear of him. And after that time, I just kind of surrendered that back over to him, surrendered my life, my children, my childbearing, my womb. I turned it all over to him, and I was just like, if you in your great mercy would ever give me children again and ever open my womb again after the 2 miscarriages that I had, I would just be so unbelievably grateful. But if he didn't, I would totally understand and feel like he is totally just in doing that. And I would be okay with that, whatever he desired for our lives. So that was a big thing that happened last Passover. And then we stayed in Missouri for the summer, and then ended up traveling back to Colorado to visit my family. And on the way back from Colorado, I started feeling really nauseous. So we took a pregnancy test and found out that we were pregnant. And that was in August, and found out that we were pregnant and that we would be due actually right around Passover. How ironic! It's amazing.
And it was kind of during that same time that she was getting convicted in those areas. I was getting convicted that I have battled with the strongholds of addictions throughout my life and substances for very long. And I had many years of sobriety at one point, but when I went back on the road, I started using alcohol again. And I felt like the Father was heavy on me to leave that behind. And same thing right around Passover, when she went through all this humbling, that the Father put it on me that I needed to give this up, but I didn't know how to get it completely out of my life. And coming up to the communities and being around the different folks that we've got to be around in the fellowships around here. To interact with people who had taken the Nazirite vow that's found in Numbers chapter 6 as a means of guarding themselves to be filled. Like, if anybody desires to be more set apart to Yahuah, a man or a woman, that they abstain from the fruit of the vine and from strong drink, from all forms basically of alcohol and of substance use, mind altering substance use. And that was for me something I believed that the Father was putting on me to do. And that was the weapon in our warfare. It's like there is a vow that is given to those who need to remember that our bodies don't just belong to us, and your physical hair growing out is like a reminder that this is set apart to Yah and it doesn't belong to you anymore. And for me, like, it's like she felt this humbling to wear a head covering. I didn't put that on her. It wasn't something I suggested to her, but I want to support her if that's the way that she physically thinks that she needs a reminder for her to be submitted to Yah or submitted to me, and that's her desire to do that. Well,
it's a physical reminder that I have authority and headship over me.
Yeah, and I felt like I too also needed a physical reminder that my body is not my own, that I have set it apart to Yah, and it's not just mine to do with whatever I please with. And even at the same time I took that Nazirite vow, and like literally, and I prayed that Yah would help our family be fruitful again. And that if he would bear us up and help us to raise up children again. And it was literally right after that we conceived our child. And it was like, that was right before our trip back to Colorado. And it was like this like realization afterwards that the Father had really answered that prayer, and that he would help me to be set apart to him. And it's literally like when I've had temptations to go back to those strongholds, like I physically have this reminder on my body to not be in that kingdom, to not go into the covenant of death anymore, and to seek to be a man who's filled with the covenant of life. That like men and women, like men were made to be fruitful. Like we're made, this is the look of like righteous men, like raising up children, like super exhausted and tired and worn out and body in pain, like bearing up children is really what we were made to do. Like I think we have a vision of the mighty men of David, the Gibor, like the mighty Gibborim, like as these like fierce warriors on the battlefield all the time, like dripping in blood and sweat and fighting it out. And I think the majority of their lives, they looked like dreary, ragged, haggard men who were just desperately needing sleep. And then people would mess with them, like giants would mess with them. But like they were raising up families in the wilderness. They were raising up righteous men and women in the form of babies all their lives. That's what men look like. That's what Abraham was fruitful with. That's what Isaac was fruitful with. Jacob was busy. He was taking care of babies, a bunch of them. He had 12 of them, 13 of them. Like this is the way of a righteous man. And I want to be on that path with Yah. And I want to forsake the fear of having more children, of any lack that I would have. And Yah started just cutting those areas off of me. And so like when she shared she was pregnant, it was such a rejoicing thing. It was such a freedom, because I knew that the Father had extended that loving kindness towards us again.
And his mercy
is new every day.
Oh, his mercy. Praise him for his mercy. He is so merciful.
He is.
but we were so excited, especially my girls. They were thrilled that they were going to be getting a sibling. And we definitely, with this pregnancy, I kind of felt just in my spirit that if Yah was merciful and he opened my womb again, that I really wanted to try to do things differently with unassisted home birth, give birth in the privacy of my own home. Over that summer, Yah had really worked on my heart about contentment in my motorhome and just kind of destroying the pride around giving birth in the motorhome, and especially after meeting Kelly and learning that she had given birth to 5 babies in that motorhome or in that camper space, and then meeting other women who had done home births and unassisted births in their in their tiny spaces as well, just really started to encourage me. And I just knew that that was something that a desire that Yah had put in my heart. And I just felt like, it would be most honoring to him that if he would give me another baby and another chance at this and another chance at being pregnant again, and being able to go through childbirth again, just to surrender that fear. Because the fear of childbirth, I believe, is one of the biggest strongholds in our modern society today with women, especially. I think vanity is a huge stronghold. That's a huge one that women battle. And the other one is fear of childbirth. And I just definitely felt like Yah had revealed so much to me about my previous births, and that even though they were natural births and they were at birthing centers and I had midwives, I still didn't have an ideal birth, I guess you could say. Or like, there was always things in the births that I had with my girls that I didn't care for. And in both of those births at the birth centers, when I showed up to the birth centers, I was 7 centimeters dilated. Both times when they checked me to see if I was 7 centimeters dilated, both midwives did that sweep, oops, and they ruptured my water. And after doing a lot of research, I realized that in natural birth and home birth, if you just allow your body to birth the way it needs to, yes, sometimes naturally your water will break, absolutely. But then other times, your water will cushion that birth. It will cushion that labor, cushion that baby coming through the birth canal. And it will literally break like minutes before you are pushing the baby out. It literally ruptures as like the baby is coming out. And I don't know, I just started learning more about unassisted birth, and I just thought there was something so beautiful about it, and there's something just so deep in my heart that knows that that's right and knows that that is more the natural route of things. The going back to the ancient ways of doing things, right? Like how women have been birthing for thousands of years. It's only in our modern society now that people think you're absolutely crazy to have a home birth. They think it's unsafe. They, think, oh, you're gonna put you and your baby at risk if you give birth in your house. But you can give birth all day, every day at the hospital, and with all of these unclean medications and interventions that a lot of times lead to C-section, which is a huge gaping wound of your uterus that you're then having to heal from surgery after you have your baby, and it's brutal. It's a very traumatizing way to give birth, and it's really promoted that fear that fear, and, you know, just all the constant testing. They're constantly wanting to peer behind the veil. They're constantly wanting to do a million, you know, ultrasounds on your belly. And I mean, I have had a few ultrasounds before. I had one with each of the girls. And the only reason I had to have the ultrasound was because I gave birth at birth centers. And these midwives are liable. And they have to cover their rear ends, so to speak, you know, as far as the liability goes, high-risk pregnancy goes, you know, if there's anything wrong with the baby or whatever and would cause them to be in a more high-risk category, they're not going to want to necessarily take on somebody like that in a birth center scenario, right? They're going to want to have more of the emergency resources available. But with my daughter's births and the birth centers, I knew that there were things that happened that I just didn't care for. And I really felt like when I showed up at the birth center, I took off my responsibility of birthing, laboring, and I literally put the responsibility onto that of the midwives. And I started to look to them to try to tell me how to birth my babies. I was looking to the midwife to really just like answer my questions. With Jubilee Jane, she came so fast. My labor was so fast. It was fast and furious. It was every 4-minute contractions. We got in the car. We drove 20 minutes to the birth center. I got in the birth center. It was so rapid fire. It was so intense. And then she broke my water and it got even more intense. And then I was like, I need to get in that tub. So I got in that tub. And then I was like looking at the midwife and being like, now what do I do? I literally was looking to her to tell me what to do. And she's like, push the baby out. That's what she says to me. And I'm literally like, oh my gosh, I just feel so dumb that I'm sitting here asking this midwife to tell me what to do because I'm so disconnected with my own body because now I got to the center, right? Like everything's good. I'm going to pass off the reins to my care provider. And now all the responsibility of how the birth goes, how, you know, the labor goes is now on them and their shoulders, right? And there's just something about birth that like, that doesn't sit well with me. So deep in my heart, I really knew that home birth was probably right. And that it was definitely like, Yah was definitely like pushing me in that direction. And I also wanted the whole pregnancy and everything. I wanted him to rewire my brain. I wanted him to care for me. I wanted me to have trust and faith in him that he could deliver me, that he could, you know, it's interesting that birthing a baby is called delivery, right? And that's like a similar word to that of deliverance, right? And so Isaiah 66, verse 7, it says, before she was in labor, she gave birth. Before her pain came upon her, she delivered a son. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such things? Shall a land be born in one day? Shall a nation be brought forth in one moment? For as soon as Zion was in labor, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring to the point of birth and not cause to bring forth, says Yahuah? Shall I, who caused to bring forth, shut the womb, says Yahuah. So anyway, I love those verses because it's like, you know, am I the one, like, you know, shall I bring to the point of birth and not cause it to come forth? Like, I'm the giver of life. Like, am I not going to bring you all the way through to labor, you know, all the way through your labor and to not cause your baby to be delivered? And I don't know. I had a friend, her name's Trisha. She shared that verse with me and I was like, wow, that's so good. That's so rich, you know? And, I just thought, yeah, like Yahuah, like he could be my midwife. He could help to deliver my baby. Like, why do I need to go seek out medical professionals when I have the Most High Elohim? So anyway, I just felt like that was right. I was like, yes, Yah is my midwife. My husband is my doula. I love to call him my hula, my husband doula, hula. And he's my doula, and then I'm good. I got all that I need. So that was kind of the plan from the get-go, was to do a home birth. And I was really feeling strongly that there was something really beautiful about unassisted birth. Or I don't like to say unassisted because it's not unassisted. You have the assistance of the Most High. You have the loving assistant and caregiver of your husband. So you're not unassisted. And then whoever else you want to be at the birth. So it could be a good friend, a family member, whoever else you want that's just not a medical professional. And so some of the terms for this style of birthing, this is called free birthing. And I think because it's free, because you're birthing in your house and you're not having to pay a midwife. Even midwives who come to your house to help you give birth, it can be quite expensive. It can at least be $2,500 or more, maybe $3,000, maybe $4,000 to hire a midwife to come into your home and help you give birth. And to me, I'm like, that just seems kind of, I don't know. I just was like, I just want to be free of that and do a free birth. And I really want Yahuah to refine me, and I want to have fear and reverence of him, and I want to be free of all the other people telling me how to birth in my ear, and just allow my body to do what it was made and designed and created to do, and listen to the Most High, and to be able to just be prayerful throughout birth, and to really just focus on him and his deliverance that is to come. My pregnancy this go around was brutal. It was so brutal, you guys. It was hands down the most difficult pregnancy that I have had yet. It's my third pregnancy. It was so excruciating. He started being my caregiver.
It was like, I just had to mentally get to a place of letting go any of my own desires for what her pregnancy was going to be like, and just surrender to the Father that whatever this process needs to be, he'll work it out.
Yeah. And it was like,
he brought you to, the end of it.
Yeah.
He brought you to the end of it, and he provided us a place because of all of it. Because her symptoms were so severe, it made me willing to move anything. And I don't know how else we would have actually gotten out of our RV, you guys. We had become so rooted into it, in a sense. Nothing else that I think could have gotten me willing to just change every circumstance of our entire life than her health declining so severely, watching her entire body just shutting down.
Yeah. And
being like, I will do anything to try to get my wife well, but outside of the medical system, we really want to try to be a living witness that it's like we're like missionaries in a foreign land, and we're trying to have the faith that we hear about, these stories in the scripture,
read about in the
and we
scriptures.
believe that Yah can give us wisdom and knowledge and understanding, and bring the right people into our path to help us have insight into what to do.
Yes.
And I really believe he started to do that with other couples that started sharing their testimonies with me about mold toxicity and mold that got into their RVs and their campers or their homes, and how much it affected their health. And it made me really take the mold seriously, because we come from a desert place where the mold is not as prevalent, and generally. And so it didn't make me really treat it as seriously as it needed to be. But by her health declining, I knew that we had to get to a place where we had to get her out and get her to a clean environment. And even the first Airbnb we moved to had, where we filmed that video, there was still, out of 4 bedrooms, there are 4 room spaces, there was mold in 3 of them. Active mold, and you're on the ceiling and in the windowsills and in the closet. Because
I was still having itchy, burning eyes.
Our children itching all over.
Oh, my itchy skin was terrible.
And we were like, well,
I'm out of the RV. How am I not
But I had to keep going back to the RV. So it was really tough, and it was just such a relief to me. Driving it up and just selling it. I sold it at a dealership for scrap, because it was gutted, and I was like, maybe I'll redo the flooring and put in all the new furniture again, and like I didn't have any of that in me. And like it was like I was so fatigued and exhausted from caregiving for her while feeling so horrible myself that I just wanted our family to be free from it. You know, like the RV had become such a burden to me so severely with water leaks. I could not.
There was no way we were going to be able to keep water out.
And the roof was compromised. The roof was like, the roof was not sound anymore. And like, even though we'd seal it, it was still not sound. And we were getting condensation through the roof. And I was like, it's inevitable that water was going to get back into our RV and it's going to create the mold again. And like, I wanted to just let it go and like, just be free and get her somewhere she could be able to give birth in peace. And like, that's literally what led us to this place that we didn't even know like has concrete floors, and it's like new, and it's like mold free, and it's like, it was perfect. Like we had friends help us move out here, and when we got here, we were like, this is exactly, like you finally had peace to give birth somewhere.
It had everything.
And it literally was like within a week.
I could have cried. I was like, it literally.
It was like within 1 week too. You were like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All my itching went away, you guys. Praise Yah. My itching had finally stopped. And at this point in the pregnancy, I was just getting so big that I was just exhausted. Like it was so hard to walk, move. Like my back was in agony. Like these muscles, like these psoas muscles and all these tendons were just to their max.
And you just felt like the baby would get in a bad position and just be excruciating. She'd just be sitting there crying. And she has such a high pain tolerance. Like the reason I also have so much faith is that my wife knows how to push her pain tolerance so high. I've seen her give birth naturally to children, and I knew that we did not need a midwife. And like we had other people that really wanted us to have a midwife. Lots of people wanted us to have a midwife, and especially when they saw how bad her health was getting. They're like, you need a midwife. Like, we'll pay for you to have a midwife. And like, we prayed before Yahweh, like, then send us double confirmation on the same day that we're supposed to have a midwife. Like,
and we'll do it.
I was like, we'll do it. It's got to a place where it's so
I was so sick
that we want to have a midwife. But I've seen midwives, they still have a mental tie, and I believe like a soul tie through their state licensures. They have an allegiance to the state that makes them mentally incapable of making certain decisions without that weighing on them, because their licensure could be at risk.
It's liability.
And it's liability. And liability decisions make people make choices not based out of the mother's best interest or the baby's best interest, but by selfishly.
Or based off of faith.
Yeah, and so I know I'm sure there's exceptions, and some of you guys probably have awesome testimonials about
and awesome midwives,
Will you close that door gently, please? Turn the knob. Yes. But I've seen enough of our own experience to know that that was not what I wanted to do, but I was willing to make that change. And like, we both did not get confirmation that we should do that. And so I was like, let's not do it, you know? And like, we would rather that money go towards what our needs were, you know? We're like, we need a van. Like, we need a van. We need a house. Like, we need a place to live. We now need a house to rent, or a place to live, like a furnished home. And it's like, but other people really want to have the peace of mind by having someone else who's liable and responsible there. And I think it's that peace of mind that they're seeking through midwives, when it like clearly Yahuah's voice makes the deer give birth. Like it's Yahuah who proclaims it. And I believe he did that seventh day with you, that he proclaimed for you your hour of birth, you know, and it was literally just after Passover. Like we literally got out of the house of bondage, like the house of Mitzrayim. Like for those of you that don't know, the first commandment is not just you shall have no other gods before my face. The first commandment is, I am Yahuah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, misery, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other Elohim before my face.
Wow.
Like, that's our story. Like, he literally brought us out of a house of death, and he brought us somewhere to life. And like, that's what led you to even feeling like the Father further refining you and convicting you of more pride, and the deep repentance that led us to go be immersed again in this freezing cold river. Which
my last like big, you know, we kind of immerse in mikvah all year round, but my last big one was Passover a year ago. One night I was showering, and I was just in the shower, just in agony, and I was just asking Yah, like, oh, like, Yah, I am so tired. I am so weary. I am in so much pain. Like, when is it gonna be time for my deliverance? Like, I need this. I'm so weary of the suffering, because I had been suffering the entire pregnancy. Like I said, it was one thing after another, and by the end, I had lost so much weight, I could hardly eat. I was weak, I was fatigued.
You're at your end.
I was literally walking through the valley of the shadow of death. That's what I felt like. And I was just in agony, and I was just desperate for any kind of relief. And I ended up just praying and talking with the Father, and I just felt like he brought to mind is that Yahuah opposes the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. He gives mercy to the humble. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Why is that verse coming to mind right now? Like I'm just showering, and that's the verse that's coming to mind. And then I asked Yah, I was like, yeah, like, do I have some areas of pride that I need to repent for? And if so, will you show me what those are? Will you tell me what those are? Like, where did that enter in? What did that enter in through? Like, and as I was just kind of praying through that in the shower, he just revealed, like, it was like he walked me back through my entire life, and how pride had been such a root and a stronghold throughout my life, and throughout, like, it was like the leaven, right? Like, you know, we're getting ready to clear the leaven out, right, for the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And it was like the leaven in my life. Pride was like the leaven in my life that had just infested every area of my life. And he literally, through that prayer time in the shower, he just walked me through all of these sources of pride. And eventually it led back to the ultimate pride of when I was, you know, with Jubilee, being too proud to give birth in my camper. And then just pride about childbirth, and just pride about, like, so many different things. And so I just cried in the shower and just repented of all of the areas of pride that he revealed to me that I had in my life. And so I repented, and then the next morning I told Nathan, I said, Nathan, and I told him about it, and I said, I need to go down to the river, and I need to repent of my pride, and I want Yahuah to cleanse me and wash it down the river, and Yeshua's blood to cover me and atone for my sins, and just clean me and make me new from this pride. I want this to go away, and I want to ask for forgiveness for this. And so we went down to the river. It was like the coldest day. It was like freezing cold river. Freezing cold river. And I got in the water. I just kind of waded out in it, and I was like, this water is so cold. I was like, this might send me into labor. I said, well, I hope and pray this sends me into labor. So we immersed, and oh my gosh.
Your water broke that night.
It did. It broke that night. And this is hilarious too. So my back was hurting again, classic. Nathan rubbed my back. It didn't help, and I'm in so much pain. And so I'm up and about in the living room, and I'm just praying again, you know, asking Yah to deliver me. I'm so weary. I'm so exhausted, and I'm like, how much longer, Yah? Like, how much longer? And I felt like in my spirit, he was just like, not too much longer. And I literally walked back to bed.
Sweet relief. It's midnight, and I've been so uncomfortable tonight, and I've been rolling back and forth in bed trying to just go to sleep because I'm so tired. And I rolled over and felt this enormous crunch in my pelvis, and I was like, oh gosh, what just happened? Like, did I squish the baby in there? Like, it felt so weird. And then as I was laying there, I had this thought, maybe I should put some Chuck's pads under me in the bed, you know, because what if one of these nights my water breaks? And then all of a sudden I felt like I was peeing my pants, and I just like rolled out of the bed. Just water going everywhere like a river. Praising the Most High, because I've never felt such relief. This belly was so distended, you guys. I was literally looking at it in the mirror tonight going, I just don't know how it can get any larger. Like, I don't think it can. There's been such pressure in there. And the baby's been just cartwheeling in there, freestyle, because it's had so much fluid in my belly. Oh, it feels so good. I've never had my water break with my other babies until the midwives broke them at like 7 centimeters after I got to the birth center. But I've never had my water break like on its own before. And this is quite a feeling. It's the feeling of just peeing your pants over and over and over and over and over again. But I've never felt such relief. Thank you, Yahweh.
And this is like
Right at midnight.
Go time for Dad.
Right at
It's
midnight.
like game on. Game on.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, and it was midnight the night that the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread ended, right?
And it was like
And
on.
when we took the lemon out.
Yes.
Yes, Jubilee, and we washed it down the river, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes.
Chelsea goes into labor super hard and fast, like heavy contractions, and like we had a friend that we had agreed was going to come up here and kind of help out.
Yes.
Not a midwife, a woman who's actually not giving birth to any of her own children, but raised 5 ridiculously sharp arrows of God.
Yes.
And we were like, Chelsea was like debating whether to call her, and I'm like, call her. Your water is on the floor. Concrete floors, praise Yahuah.
Yes.
We had pulled a rug out of here too. We were like, no rugs.
No.
No rugs.
Risky.
You don't. She started having these super hard, heavy contractions, and I'm like, yes, like this is going fast, right? Like, kind of everyone wants a fast labor for their wife. You don't want it to turn into this long thing.
You don't want a 3-day labor.
And she was like every 3 minutes, like boom, boom, boom.
It was rapid.
And then it was dropping every 2 minutes, and I'm like, honey, you might be going through transition here, like for real.
Like,
She was
it is on and I'm like,
she was like, what? Girls, please be respectful.
oh, you cannot be in here.
Thank you. They were like really heavy, really fast, and I was like, you might be going through transition here soon, honey, because like they were just so. And I know with the water breaking, like
It does accelerate.
It can accelerate things, and I've seen from her water breaks, and she gets really heavy, hard contractions, tends to go into active labor really quickly,
And then
and
transition.
transition, and it's like bam. So she's kind of started gearing herself up, and then got a little panicky though.
Yes.
Because she didn't want it to go that fast.
Well, and I was so weak, you guys, at the time. Like, I was so weak and so fatigued. And I just was like, I didn't feel like my body could really like handle that level of the intensity of the contractions.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got in the bath, right?
She took a bath, which slows everything down.
It always slows everything down. It
And
relaxes.
she felt better about it, but then it really slowed down.
Yeah.
And it was like slow, super slow.
Yeah. So we went to bed, and then when I was laying down in bed, I was having contractions still, but it was like they were like every 10-15 minutes apart. So I could sleep kind of in between having these contractions, and that was kind of the first night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
the
then
next day was pretty. I mean, you still were having tons of pain.
yeah,
You're just having constant pain.
yeah.
This is where the days slipped together, y'all, because it
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
a fast
This was
labor.
Friday, right? This was Shabbat prep. Was this
Yeah.
Shabbat prep day? I guess.
But our friend got here. She had not had a baby.
Yes. Still.
And we were like, well, maybe it's because she needs to be here for the birth.
yeah.
We're like, yeah, keep optimistic. Always focus on optimism.
And we're like, and labor usually, sometimes labor, because I've had a 3-day labor before, if it'll kick up at night and then it'll kind of slow down during the day. So
And so you gear up for it. And
Yeah.
like, she had a super good game plan, just practical, helpful stuff in case you guys ever get brave enough to go ahead and have the home birth. We laid like shower curtains down underneath, on top of our regular bedding, and then put Chuck's pads on top of that. And like we had bought cheap cotton sheets, and like that
From
was
Goodwill,
like,
I think.
from like the thrift store, and like we put all that down and basically made a second bed on top of our bed with like a plastic cover.
it's a plastic,
Shower curtain.
yeah, well, yeah, basically.
And that was a great idea. And then we had Chuck's pads, like stations where she could labor in different spots around the house. And like that's what she would kind of rotate between these spots as she would get contractions or just breathing hard. And
Yeah.
Like, she's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
And
I just like to breathe. I just do my breathing.
I'm so tired.
I do like.
this went on for days.
I just breathe through
It
them.
went on for days and nights
And days.
and days. And she got real,
And nights.
and she, on the second day, got real worn out.
And this was Shabbat.
Was real worn out.
And I was like,
And
wow, I'm
fearful.
still in labor on Shabbat. I'm exhausted.
Still can't eat.
Still can't eat, can't sleep now because every time I'm laying down,
Super intense contractions.
the contractions were infinitely more painful. And they were like so much more intense. And then when I would stand up and walk around, they'd kind of slow down. And so then I'd come back and lay down, and for whatever reason, just laying in my bed.
If we were doing all these spinning baby exercises, if you guys don't know about it, I can't recommend it enough in case you're trying to position a baby properly to get them in ideally this anterior side so that their head down and their back is here and they're ready to engage in the pelvis and get past her pelvic floor, you know? And like, I could see by the second night, the first night, I could see that the baby was like engaged. After 24 hours, I literally could see the baby's head. I was like, oh my gosh, like, you should be ready to have a baby. All we have to wait for is her to go through basically transition and then active labor, and she'll have the baby. But her contractions would never stay strong enough when she would move around. And so we learned basically that when she was laying down, that can help with a baby that's maybe a little more posterior or try to get past that pelvic lip. And so that was kind of the focus, was just doing these different exercises, like the side light release and like the
Inversion.
rebozo and the inversion. Like, these were maneuvers that were like in our toolkit that we could try to help move the baby around whenever it was in like not ideal position. And so it finally got her to where she was so wore out by Shabbat that she was feeling real panicky and fearful about.
I was feeling.
You start second guessing a lot.
Yeah,
of
you
stuff.
start second guessing yourself, and I was feeling kind of just foolish, and I was like, am I foolish? Like, that I didn't do a midwife, and that being as sick as I was and as just depleted and weary and, you know, battling mold toxicity and cholestasis, like in pregnancy, like battling all this stuff, like my liver literally like shutting down and causing all these digestional problems and not able to eat enough and losing weight. I mean, these are all big things to have happen during your pregnancy. These are not like little light matters, but I was just dealing with them and enduring and enduring.
And you make the best decisions you can at the time that happened. And then we remembered to call our friend Kelly, who had shared with Chelsea before all this stuff about it. And that, talking to her, made a huge difference for our like when you start to get really down in the labor or anything else, like reaching out to people that have had experience doing home births is so vital. Like, it would be amazing if there were midwives that you could just make phone calls to and didn't have to have all the pressure of
having them actually there.
Having them actually there, or wanting to charge you $5,000 to $6,000 to just have a phone call. You know what I mean? Like, and she had a midwife friend who she could call, and she asked some advice on what to do, and it was just like, keep going, just wait and rest while you can. She's
like, your body probably just needs rest and nutrition
before it'll go to the next stage.
Yeah, and it will eventually go. Like, and, you will eventually.
And it did. And we finally laid down on the third.
Well, on Shabbat, you guys actually prayed over me. They prayed over me and just like were so encouraging, and they were like, you can do this, Chelsea. Like, Yah is with you. Like, don't lose faith. Like, you've come so far, and you're trying to be obedient to what you have felt in your heart that Yah is calling you to do for this birth. Like, that's not foolishness. Like, that's obedience. Like, you're trying to be obedient. And like, they just encouraged me and just poured out like scriptures and life into me and prayed over me. Nathan and my friend Jennifer, they just like laid hands on me and just prayed over me, and like, it did snap me out of it. Like, it snapped me out of like that just deep place of just, like fear. You know, fear is the battle of the mind. It's it is the stronghold over pregnancy here, and over birth. It's that fear of childbirth, like always wants to creep back in, and you have to just stand against it and resist it. And anyway, after they prayed for me, I felt so much better. And we're like, it is Shabbat. It's beautiful out. The sun is shining. Like, let's go outside and labor outside a little bit. Like, oh, it's so nice being outside. It's so warm. Spring is here. Oh, do we? We walking with Mama? Oh, we're trying to get baby to move down into the pelvis.
She's walking funnier every step.
Yep.
It's good.
It's hard to walk. There's a lot of pressure. We ran outside and we had Left and Right Ministries playing, you know, their home worship series playing on the TV, and I just started worshiping, even in the midst of just being in so much sorrow and so much anguish and pain and fatigue, but just pushing through that and just rejoicing anyway. Like, I am going to choose as an act of my will to rejoice and praise our Heavenly Father, even amidst these extreme circumstances right now, and just sleep deprivation and everything else. Like, I'm gonna choose to worship Him and rejoice. And we just felt so much better.
Yeah.
Like, after that, Shabbat was actually really good, like laboring on Shabbat. But then the night came and no baby still, and
Exhaustion.
yeah.
But then active labor started finally. Transition.
Finally.
Game on.
The sun went down, and
it was like 10:30 p.m. She started really going into like just the zone where they don't want to be touched or talked to.
I was laying in the bed and the contractions were so severe, you guys. I laid in bed for 2 hours.
Just death gripping.
Just death gripping Nathan's hand, like, and just trying to breathe. Like, it was getting so difficult for me to breathe through the contractions because it was so excruciating, and I was just squeezing his hand, and I finally was like, it's time. I gotta get up. We gotta do this, because I think I'm going into transition, because this is getting so...
And it was every minute to every 2 minutes. Well, like every 2 minutes.
They were lasting 3 minutes.
It was unreal.
It was
almost just like
relenting. It was just continual, which that's how transition can be.
Worst part.
But because I was on night 3 and I was so weak and weary and sleep deprived by then, I literally got in the bathroom and I told Nathan, because the contractions just were unrelenting, and I told him, I said, can you draw a bath for me? I said, because if I don't get in that bath, I think I'm gonna die. I literally felt like I was gonna die.
That's normal.
It is normal, but I know myself, and I know, like, I was to my breaking point with, like, my physical health and endurance and the state that I was in, and I literally was like, I'm really gonna die. I'm gonna die if these contractions don't stop. And so he drew a bath for me, and I got in that tub, and they died down a little bit, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Like, I'm not gonna die, I'm still alive, but that, like, was seriously
But then she
intense.
couldn't walk right. When she was standing up, like, the baby had descended, right? And that's when you know the baby is engaged in the pelvis, and it's time
to push.
It's time to start pushing.
It's time to push.
And she started doing that.
And we got back into the bedroom, and I was like, I was like, I am gonna bear down with all my might. And so I was pushing down with all my might with the contractions, and I literally felt the baby come down. And so Nathan ran and he's like, I gotta go get Naomi and Jennifer. Like this baby's gonna come out. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, he went and got them, and I reached down and I could feel the baby's head, like, coming out of me. I could feel the baby's head was, like, partially out, or not partially out, but just barely crowning, kind of starting to crown. And so then I got down on all fours to try to take pressure off and to try to just allow everything to dilate and
that's right.
Move out of the way.
Guard your perineum.
Guarding the perineum. Okay, there's this book, and it's by the author is
right here.
Yeah, the author is Heather Baker, and it's all about unassisted birthing your own way, how to do unassisted home birth, and it is the most phenomenal resource, you guys. I cannot recommend it enough if you are feeling led by Yah to go down this route and to...
Or because you can't go to a hospital or doctor anymore.
Or whatever it is. Reason. This book is the most phenomenal resource. She has tinctures that you can take during labor. Oh man, the window is closing. So it's the most phenomenal book. So
guard your perineum.
Guard your perineum. She tells you all about it. Yes, you literally hold the baby's head
in while you pant.
You're literally holding the baby's head in while you're filling them crown, the ring of fire. And instead of pushing, you stop all pushing with contractions. You're just letting the contractions come, and you pant through them. And I did this. And I did this through about 3 contractions, and then the 4th contraction came, and I was still trying to pant through it. And I'm not kidding, my body pushed the baby's head out. I didn't do anything. Pushed the baby's head out, and then the next contraction came, and I didn't push again, and it pushed the rest of the body out.
I caught her. Booyah.
We had a baby girl.
We had a baby girl. Baby Pearl.
Gosh, baby Pearl.
That's baby Pearl right there.
So baby Pearl was born, and she had mucus all over her face.
Oh, wait. Right when the baby's head was coming out? That first thing where it pushed her out?
Oh, yeah.
She was just so much mucus, like yellowish mucus, you know, because she'd been in the chute for a long time.
Yeah.
But when Chelsea's body did the next contraction, it squeezed her lungs, and all this mucus shot out of her nose. Which is why a vaginal birth, y'all, rocks.
Yes.
Because it helps to clear fluids and clear their lungs out.
So they can breathe.
This is like super critical timing. And like, it was amazing to get to see that happen. As I like brought her out, I was like,
and you caught her.
And I caught her.
Yeah.
Which is sweet. But then it was like, my job is then to give the baby to Chelsea and then treat Chelsea. That was like our game plan, right?
Yeah.
She could take care of the baby.
So I had suction bulb.
So she was on
I was just on it. I was like suctioning baby, and then I got the nose freed out.
But her like umbilical cord was really short.
It was really short, which was really strange.
And we were like waiting for her to give birth to the placenta.
Yes.
You know, and like it was taking a while.
Yes.
And I called our friends Kelly and Chris again, and he's like, "You got to get her on that." And like one of the tinctures that you can use is Angelica to help get the body to stimulate to release the placenta and stuff like that.
Yes.
And we were like, we got to help get this placenta out of her. And so she started having like super intense contractions, like crazy intense contractions.
Yes. We're having contractions, and I'm kind of laying back on the bed, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm having so many bad contractions, and we're looking down at my belly because my belly is still so full.
Big.
I'm like, why is my belly so...
And Pearl was not huge either.
No. Oh, Pearl was 6 pounds, 12 ounces.
Just really small for the Reynolds.
Little baby. I have 9-pounders normally, okay?
Cannonballs.
Little 6-pounder Pearl. I was like, that was amazing. And anyway, I am holding this baby, and I'm feeling like these crazy contractions, and we're looking down at my belly, and we're like looking at it, and like it's kind of big still, and we're like, maybe I just have a monstrous placenta in there. And like me and Nathan and Jennifer are all looking at my belly, and right then we saw
something move.
We saw like it went like rolled, like something like rolled, and then like something came up and then went down, and we were like, oh my gosh. And we all looked at each other and we're like, is that another baby in there? And we're like,
no.
Nah. We're like, that's just the
placenta.
We're like, it's that big placenta rolling off and detaching from the wall. That's what it is.
She started having more and more intense contractions. And so she gets up to like give birth to the placenta. And I'm like, full disclosure, tugging on the umbilical cord a little bit.
He's like, trying to get it out. He's like, come on there.
And then like, I see like, she's like, it's coming down. And I see like,
I felt it was huge.
White, round, like thing coming down. And I'm like, gosh, that does not look like the placenta normally. But there is this kind of skinnish casing on the placenta. And I'm like, maybe that's it. And I'm like, it's huge, honey. Slow down. Like, don't push this thing.
He's like, don't push. You need your perineum to dilate.
Like, this thing's big.
And I can feel it. I mean,
and she's like, it's a jellyfish. Just get the copper bowl. Just get the copper basin.
I'm like, I'm gonna push it out, Nathan. Grab the copper bowl. And so he grabbed our big foot washing basin that I had been soaking my feet in.
And foot washing our family in for months.
I had been soaking my feet in ice cold water with the cholestasis because my feet were itching so bad. And every night
she starts bearing down like crazy. and she shoots out another baby. Y'all, we had twins. It was in its casing.
A boy.
A baby boy shot into the copper basin. I caught him. He was in his casing, like a missile shot down into there. I caught him. Yes, we got twins, y'all. Dualies. Praise Yah. It was a head. It was big enough to be a head.
Oh my gosh.
Chelsea, this makes so much sense of your symptoms.
Oh my
They were
gosh.
twins.
They were twins.
Oh.
And I prayed for dualies. Back when I prayed that Nazarite prayer, I prayed that Yah would give Chelsea dualies.
He didn't tell me
I'm not
that.
talking about a truck.
He
I'm talking
didn't
about
tell
babies.
He
No.
didn't tell me that.
But he did. But 2 weeks before she gave birth, like we both had dreams on the same night that we were having twins. And we were
Yes.
both like, no way.
We're
Because
like,
we can't do it. We
no.
got a 5-seater car. We live in a tiny RV. I'm
we
like,
just
we cannot
we just
do
sold
twins.
our RV. We're like what? Like we
God,
can't even
twins.
handle the thought of like having twins.
Too bad, so sad, son. You got them.
Yeah.
And we were pumped. And it was crazy amount of blood. Enormous amount of blood. More than you can even imagine. Like 8 cups of blood. Which is alarming, but not, because our friend Chris was on the phone with us. You want to see him? You guys
Yeah.
want to see our baby boy?
Oh.
I'll tell her.
Okay.
He might be loud. Oh, he's real snuggly on her.
Oh, he's so
That's
cute.
fine. We'll keep going.
We'll bring him in a minute.
But there's a couple tinctures that were super critical right now. We had an anti-bleed tincture and we had shepherd's purse. Now, she had not given birth to the placentas. I did not know this. Anyways, but she lost so much blood during the delivery right after the second baby was born.
Oh, yeah.
That I gave her some shepherd's purse because I was like, we need to clot you off. Like that was way more blood than I was anticipating. My buddy was like, it's okay, it's totally normal. Like it is.
Yeah.
It is. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I kind of geared up for a certain quantity of blood, and then this was now way past it. But her body was made for it. However, so she went to the bed and just like was reclining there, like, I got 2 babies now. Like, what do we? It was quite complicated, quite fast. So we had then she did end up.
Well, you delivered. Then we delivered the placentas.
Then she delivered the
pretty
placentas, and
Pretty
now you
right
got,
after the boy
and
came
the
out.
placentas were like attached to each other, and so you got like 2 placentas, 2 umbilical cords, 2 babies, both in copper bowls. We have the placentas in copper bowls, and babies all around. It was wild. Praise Yah, Jennifer was here.
Praise
because
Yah.
we didn't have enough hands. We didn't have enough hands. The Reynolds had multiplied exceedingly. But you know what?
It was so
he delivered her so incredibly, and she didn't tear, which is an even more of a miracle.
That's a total miracle. Because I did with my previous 2 babies. Because why? The midwives tell you to push.
And so you listen to them instead of
They
listening
tell
to your
you
body
to push
and going
instead
slow.
of stopping, holding,
Jennifer,
waiting,
You can tell Jennifer.
and then panting through them, and my body literally propelled her out, and that was like the most natural thing ever, and it was amazing, and there was no
You can
tearing,
tell Jennifer she
so
needs
it was
pregnant.
really beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, go around, don't use that door.
But yeah, Yahuah delivered me, you guys. He delivered me from the valley of the shadow of death, y'all. He is so good. He is so faithful. And he, not only did we birth twins, which we did not know, we did not do any ultrasounds
No peering behind the
whatsoever.
veil.
No peering behind the veil. And actually our son was born in the caul,
Yeah.
or whatever, in his casing, which it's called, isn't the
And
caul,
yeah.
and caul, it means the veil. So he literally was like our veiled son in the womb. And it was funny because looking back on it, like, there were so many signs that, you know, like, oh my gosh, yeah, that happens with, you know, multiple pregnancies, you know, pregnancies with multiples, and that happens with multiples, and that happens with multiples, and
But it's like he gave us 2 children. We lost 2 children on the road,
Yeah.
but he's raised up 2 more for us, you know, and like.
and they were born on the Feast of First Fruits, you guys.
Oh, we bless you, Yahuah, in this first fruits that you have given to us. We thank you and rejoice at this boy and this girl, and we wave them before you on this day. Woo! Hallelujah! Hallelujah! You've given us a double portion. Fruit of the womb. Oh, hallelujah! Hold on, Nate.
Dad's gonna hold on a minute.
Hallelujah.
And he gave us a double portion on it, you
He
know.
gave us a double portion of the
Hallelujah.
fruit of our womb
This is my son.
on the
I got
Feast
a
of
son.
First Fruits.
This is Abraham. Kior. Yes. Eleazar Reynolds. Kior is the copper basin, the laver that the priests wash their feet in. Go watch Chelsea's vanity video. My son.
So we got a boy and a girl.
Praise God.
Yah.
You guys can do it too.
Chubby.
Yahweh can appoint any of you the ability to give birth. Jennifer, would you say hello? Do you want to say hi? Come on in.
Jennifer.
This is our dear friend who made it possible for us to do this and stayed with us an extra more than a week.
This is our friend Jennifer.
Because we were way over our heads in babies. And so delirious. We hadn't slept in 5 days and it was just, she came in and helped us so much. So this is what Yah makes miracles come place. Don't reach in there yet, please.
Okay, hold on a minute.
We just want to encourage you guys and thank you guys for all of your support and your prayers. So many people were praying for us.
Thank you for all the
and
prayers.
literally, we could not have done this without the financial support of so many people that poured in to enable us to get out of there and to get somewhere else. And you know, we had minimally prepared for one baby, and now we are rapidly trying to acquire everything else we need for 2 babies. And you know what? Yah is richly supplying us with all of our needs, but this is our dear friend who helped to make that possible. And lean back, Jennifer. Lean back on Chelsea so they can see. Yay! Hallelujah for good people. And we've had other people that brought us food and meals and drinks and nourishment and bone broths, and because it was it was a few days of really heavy recovery time for Chelsea. And you know what? She is being restored day by day. Okay, thank you. I love that you love them.
Okay, Cindy, thank you. It was the most surreal experience I've ever had.
The biggest shock of our lives, y'all.
Yeah.
Because we did now. What's cool, y'all, is in Genesis, Isaac's wife was barren, okay, and he's 59 years old, and she's like, pray to Yahuah for me that it'll open my womb, and he does, and he opens her womb, right, and then 7 months in, she is in excruciating pain and agony. And she has no idea what's going on. It says she goes to all the people of the land and is asking them. Book of Jasher has a little longer account about it. She's asking all of them, have you ever had anything like this? She is just, it says she's worn out. And she's they're all like, no, we don't even know. So then she goes to Abraham and, Shem and Eber. Those are the sons of Noah. And asks all of them to pray to Yahuah to tell her what's going on. And Yahuah answered all of them that, behold, there was 2 nations in her womb, and the older would serve the younger, right? But it says that it literally doesn't say until the day of her going into labor, basically. Behold, it's there were twins in her womb. It's she literally didn't know for certain until she gave birth, you know? And it's and the first one cried out. It came out all hairy, like an old, like a goat. Red and hairy all over, you know? And then it said that Jacob came out clutching his heel, which means he was born with what's called a nuchal arm, where their head is up alongside their arm is alongside their head. So they're coming out of the birth canal with that arm sticking out. Which means that's a complicated birth, y'all.
Yeah.
And that can be a lot of people's oh my gosh, you can give birth with a nuchal arm. You can give birth breech.
Yes, you can.
You can do it, y'all. There is so much fear in this industry of birth that they have kept women and men being filled with fear. I know other really brave, righteous men of Yah who are I'm not going to let my wife do a home birth because I'm too scared of seeing blood and seeing her hurt. And you know what? I saw my wife totally indisposed, bleeding more blood than I've ever seen come out of a human being that lived. I'm not joking.
So much blood.
I have seen a lot of blood come out of a lot of people in my life. And I've never seen as much that came out of her in someone that lived.
Wow.
And that's why it was very I did my best to triage her according to what I could think of. Now, our friend Chris and Kelly, who they had given birth to twins, unassisted, without knowing it, also in their camper.
Yes. So Kelly from Texas.
They were on the phone with us.
Their 5 children that they have given birth to unassisted, their first birth that they had unassisted in the camper was to twins
that they did not know.
That they did not know because they did not have an ultrasound or
Praise
anything.
Yah.
And they gave birth to twins. And we literally had them on the phone while we gave birth to our first unassisted birth twins. How crazy is that? You can't plan this stuff. Yahuah can though, and he orchestrates.
And we met Jennifer at the first Milanite meetup ever down in Texas with Chris and Kelly.
Yes.
She met them and gave them fruit trees that they are growing fruit trees with.
Yes.
Like, it's pretty beautiful, y'all.
It is really
We're going to
cool.
plant our placentas and plant fruit trees on top of them.
Yes.
You betcha.
Yes.
Like, this is Yah's kingdom is all about fruitfulness.
It is.
You know, and it's not about that kingdom of fear. And you have to get rid of these
Yes.
fears about
Yes.
like, oh, my wife's going to die in childbirth, or my children are going to die in childbirth. You know what? Like, the truth is, the real...
You could.
Absolutely possible. But you know what? Not if Yahuah says otherwise.
There it is.
And you know what? You rebuke the fear of death everywhere you find it,
That's
from the
right.
beginning of the pregnancy all the way to the end.
That's right.
And we still have to rebuke that fear anytime it tries to come up
Yep.
with anything. Like, she gave birth to full-term twins, which is super rare. If we'd been at a birth center and we had ultrasounds, the pressure to have her and all the health symptoms she was having,
the
pressure would have been so
alone.
different. Or having a midwife.
Yes.
They would have been so concerned with
They
other
would have been
pressures.
fearful.
Yes.
And fearful of liability, and probably wouldn't have taken me on as a home birth.
Yeah.
Probably not at all. They would have just said, I'm
sent her to transfer.
sorry.
Yeah.
You're gonna be probably an automatic transfer to a hospital, so you should just give birth in the hospital because it would be safer.
High risk.
Because you're high risk. You
Yeah.
know, I'm over the age of 35, so they would definitely they deem that automatically as high risk, which is ridiculous because
I read
women,
about Sarah, y'all.
yeah,
Mhm.
come on.
She home birth.
Women are so fruitful still after 35. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're gonna be a train wreck giving birth.
Dang right.
You know.
Because we serve a mighty Elohim, you know,
do.
like the truth is, like, my wife and I are dead. We're dead people.
Yes.
Like, the only thing that came back to life after we have our immersions, like, is Him living through us. Like, the truth is, He is the one who gives us the fruits of resurrection.
Yes.
Like, our Messiah was dead and buried. Like, case closed. The adversary thought he had won a victory. And you know what? It was the triumphant victory of Yahuah and His perfect plan of redemption for every one of us. That resurrection Sunday that resurrection day was the greatest day of defeat for the kingdom of darkness. And you know what? That was when death was defeated for us too. And you know what? She was on the gates of death, standing there with
was I?
her for 10 months, y'all. Pregnancy is not a 9-month thing. It's a 10-month thing. And she carried these twin babies to term in a horrible house of bondage. We didn't even realize it, but she was in a sick environment. She was very, very sick. But her body, because of all the supplementation and the incredibly nutrient-packed food we were trying to constantly give her, her body was able to give those nutrients to our babies. And we have healthy, vigorous, strong children.
They're beautiful.
Full size. You know, like Abraham was more like 8.5 pounds.
Yeah.
He was a lot bigger than Pearl. Pearl was much smaller.
Yes.
But he was way bigger. And you know what? Like, the body was still sustaining these children in the womb amidst
lives.
all those circumstances.
And the crazy thing too, like with the Spinning Babies, like my friend Kelly is the one who told me about Spinning Babies website. And I looked it up and I was like, wow, I really love all this information. I highly recommend checking it out if you're pregnant. There are so many exercises you can be doing all along during and throughout your pregnancy to help optimize the space in your pelvis and allow that baby to get in proper position way ahead of time. And you're creating balance in your body to be able to allow that baby to move freely, get in good position so that you can have the most optimal birthing experience. And it's great. And you know what? Both of our babies were born head down, you know, they were both head down. One was on the one side, one was on the other side, which is funny now because looking back on it, I was like, I was so big, you guys. If you would have just seen my stomach, I just kept saying, I am so big. But I guess I just kept thinking my abdominal muscles were stretched out and my body was so stretched out from the previous two babies that it just knew what to do. And maybe I just had like
you thought you had
12-pound baby in there or something.
You thought you also had excessive amniotic fluid.
Yeah, that was another thing I thought could have been
polyhydramnios.
Yep, I thought that could have been a potential because I had all the symptoms pointing to that. And so I was like, I just feel so full and my belly is just huge. It's bigger than I was with any of my other pregnancies. So I definitely thought I could have had that.
But instead, like, you had the right amount of fluid to keep your babies alive. And another big freak out that a lot of people have is about how long they can go with their water breaking. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
you can go, listen, you can have your water break and still deliver the baby 96 hours later. And
Yeah.
no complications of infection and all that nonsense. That the modern world might tell you that you got 24 hours to get that baby out or we're going to rip you open.
No.
You know, that's not necessary at all.
It's not true.
It's not reality. You can go 96 hours without
Once
that
again,
baby.
it's probably because of liability.
Yes, and these and who sets liability standards? But generally insurance agencies.
Yeah.
This is what like governs the majority of the world is the Black Towers of Sauron at State Farm. Like you got to understand, the world is under the influence of sorcerers.
Yes.
And these people give their edicts out that rule the world, and they by obeying them, we bring their fruits to life.
Yeah.
Who you obey is who your father is. You obey that which you are loyal to. Like whatever rule you're a slave to, whatever you do is what you're a slave to. You know what I mean? Like this is our desire is to be obedient to Yahuah and to be zealous for his ways.
Yes.
Like Abraham was zealous for keeping idolatry out of his house, and he destroyed his father's household idols.
Yes.
He raised up and took a hatchet and just smashed his father's idols down.
And that's how Yahuah wants us to be. He
Yes.
wants us to, like, he didn't want us to be complacent with all those idols on the windowsill of that birth center. He didn't want us to be okay with that and giving birth in that center. But I let fear blind me.
your idol.
It blinded me from making a good decision, and it blinded me and caused me to transgress or sin against the Most High. You know, it just we got to see miracles within miracles in this birth. Like, just I cannot believe how merciful he is, how faithful he is, and how mighty he was to deliver us when we just kept enduring and we kept entrusting ourselves to him who is faithful and is mighty to deliver. And he did. His deliverance came for me. And you know, postpartum, the first couple days after was really hard. I was really weak. I could hardly even walk to the bathroom, and my whole body was cramping up like crazy. I think because I had lost a lot of blood and, you know, needed mineral replacement and electrolytes and things replacement. And so we just started pumping me full of supplementation and, you know, minerals. And I could finally eat, you guys. Oh my gosh, I could finally eat. That was like the best ever. Like, I was eating like my life depended on it. I was eating so much food, and it was like it could not like satisfy the hunger. Like, I just had like such a hunger because I was literally like starving the whole pregnancy, like pretty much. So that felt really good to be able to just eat. And then I think it was like day 4 or 5, I felt like I finally turned the corner, and I'm just like praising the Most High for his deliverance and for saving my life and for being such a loving and compassionate and merciful Elohim that even when we sin against him, if we have a genuine heart of repentance towards him and we genuinely want to turn from our evil ways and seek him and pursue righteousness and pursue his ways and do things according to his commandments, his loving instructions, he is merciful. He will extend his loving compassion towards us. He will be mighty to save us and deliver us from even death. And I was so close to death, you guys. And he pulled me back from the brink, delivered my babies beautifully. Praise Yahweh, caught him in a copper bowl. Hallelujah.
It's the truth is it's Yahuah who gets the glory for these kinds of things. It's him
May he
only.
be magnified.
You know, and we want you guys to be edified and encouraged that Yah has miraculous things in store for his people, and he only has good in store for us. And even if it's through chastisement, like he disciplines us because he loves us.
Yes, he does.
You know, and he loves us so much.
And he gives grace to the humble.
That's right.
But he
resists the proud. So humble yourselves, therefore, before your mighty Elohim, and he will lift you up. He's the one who
Yes.
lifts up our head. Like, that's
Yes.
the beauty of Psalms. Like, David crying it out. Like,
Yes.
we bow our heads before him, but like,
That's right.
he's the one who lifts our heads up.
Yes.
And like, he indeed has lifted our heads.
Oh, so good. It's so good. He has turned my mourning into dancing and my sorrow into joy, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, and I just feel so blessed and that we had an opportunity to trust him fully. And our Elohim came through
Yeah, he did.
like he always does.
Yeah.
He's so mighty.
He's always been faithful.
He has always been faithful. And, it's so cool. It's so cool. We're really excited for this new season of life. And we're glad that we could have this opportunity to share this
Yeah.
powerful testimony of the Elohim that we serve. And he calls us to be set apart. He calls us to be bold and courageous.
This is how we do it, you know? We live a funky, peculiar, set-apart lifestyle that doesn't make sense to most of the people of the world. You know what? And even our brothers and sisters who are trying to walk it out too, it might not make sense to them either, but we have to be obedient to what it is that he tells us to do.
Yeah.
And trust him with the circumstances. And even if Yah had changed the circumstances and the outcome was different, I am counting on his steadfastness to know that he sustains us through all circumstances.
That's right.
No matter the outcomes, it's him who gets the glory. And death will be defeated.
That's
Death
right.
is defeated.
Yes.
Like, our King lives, and like, we can praise him because he's the one who has the key of David on his shoulder. He's the one who opens doors that no man can shut.
That's
and
right.
shuts doors that no man can open. And like, my wife was at the gates of death, but he shut those doors to her, and he opened her to life, and he opened us to new life, and we rejoice in that. And we want you guys to take pleasure in the joy of our salvation, because
Yes.
he is leading us to a place in a location and a type of living that we don't even know. We don't know what our tomorrow holds. We don't know where we're going to live. But you know what? We rejoice in him and know that he'll provide us a home somewhere. And it will be a place where we can settle in and establish our family and raise up some arrows for Yahuah. You know, children are an inheritance from Yahuah.
Yes.
The fruit of the womb is our reward. Like, this is my reward. And this is a gift from my Father.
It is.
He only gives good gifts. So
right.
go be fruitful and multiply, y'all. And live courageously. Have babies. Raise them mightily.
Have them at home.
Give home births.
Have home births.
ferociously.
Vigorously.
Vigorous home births.